So I have one poem, and it's called While We Are Still Living. Some people carry warmth the way old houses carry music after a party has ended. Not the music itself, but the memory of it, absorbed into curtains, floorboards, wallpaper, lingering in places where no one remembers to look. You step inside and immediately understand that joy once happened here. You cannot explain how you know. Your body simply recognizes what your mind has not yet named. March 5th, 1953, Stalin dead. I love you more and more every day, but I'm too scared to tell you. May 22nd, 1972, President Nixon arrives in Moscow to sign arms control agreement. I love you more and more every day, but I'm too scared to tell you. December 24th, 1979, our forces invade Afghanistan. I love you more and more every day, but I'm too scared to tell you. I will never forget a Russian poem I encountered in graduate school about an elderly woman who had died in her small log cabin, the kind of place that seems less built than grown from the earth around it, a home made of timber and weather and years of familiar mournings. After she died, the villagers entered her cabin to sort through what remained of her life, opening drawers, touching objects that still held the shape of a person's hands, deciding what should be saved and what can finally be released. It was then that they began finding the strips of paper, thousands and thousands of small strips of paper hidden throughout the cabin, each one dated, each one recording some moment, some event of the day, the ordinary fragments that make up an entire human existence. But beneath each entry, always the same words. I love you more and more every day, but I'm too scared to tell you. Only after her death did they understand that the woman had spent her entire life. I think the gods are against this. But beneath each entry, always the same words. I love you more and more every day, but I'm too scared to tell you. Only after her death did they understand that the woman had spent her entire life loving someone she had never found the courage to tell. She stood beneath the stars, but never once believed she was allowed to call them beautiful out loud. The natural world has never understood this distinction between feeling something and living it. A field does not hesitate before blooming because it wonders whether anyone will notice the color of its flowers. A river does not ask permission before carving its way through stone. Everything alive seems to understand that its purpose is not merely to exist, but to express the fullness of what it is. And yet human beings with our extraordinary and complicated hearts are often terrified of the very thing that proves we are alive. But a seed that never breaks open remains only a promise. I often think about the old woman and all those pieces of paper, each one a testament to the astonishing endurance of love, and also the quiet tragedy of a life lived at a distance from itself. There was a beauty in her devotion, there was a tenderness, there was something holy in the way she honored a feeling that asked for nothing in return. Perhaps the greatest risk of loving is not that we may be rejected, but instead that we may never be allowed ourselves to be known, that we may leave behind, hidden in the metaphoric corners of our own lives, thousands of unwritten notes to the people who never knew they were loved. I want to believe that the purpose of love is not simply to be returned. I want to believe that love is a force like wind or rain or sunlight, something that passes through the world and leaves everything a touch change. But I also believe that we are here to participate in the weather of our own lives, to open the windows, to step outside, to let ourselves be seen beneath the vast and uncertain sky. Because the most beautiful landscapes are the ones that have been changed by their courage to exist. Perhaps that is how we recognize certain people, like migratory birds somehow finding the direction of warmth before winter has fully declared itself. Something ancient inside us notices another presence and quietly rearranges its own internal geography. Longing, I think, belongs in architecture. It is born in narrow hallways where two people instinctively turn sideways to let one another pass. It lives in rain against windows, in kitchens where there's only enough room for one person to open a drawer at a time. Small enclosed spaces have a peculiar way of making us conscious of the distance between bodies, Not because the distance must disappear, but because suddenly we become aware that it exists at all. There is an extraordinary tenderness in allowing another person to remain entirely themselves, even while every instinct inside you has already recognized them as beautiful. There are people walking through this world carrying entire galaxies of affection. There are people who leave behind the emotional equivalent of phosphorescence, a glow that remains visible long after contact is ended. Not because they promised anything, but because certain encounters illuminate us in ways that continue long after the initial moment has been dissolved. And perhaps that is what we owe to our own hearts, the courage to be present for our own lives while we are still living them. Because life is not measured only by the love we carry within us. It is measured by the moments when we are brave enough to gently carry that love into the world, to offer it not carelessly, not to those who would diminish it, but to those rare souls whose presence allows us to feel safe enough to be fully known. The people whose spirits move in harmony with our own. The people who do not ask us to shrink, hide, or become someone else in order to be loved. For love was never meant to be a secret we protect until it becomes a relic of the past. It is meant to be a living thing, something exchanged between hearts, something that changes both the giver and the receiver. For the greatest tragedy is not a broken heart. It is arriving at the end of a long life and discovering that the thing you protected most carefully was the very thing you were meant to give away. So, I got my